Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution, or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio.
Welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. My name is Martha. I am a clinical sexologist based in Singapore, and my company is called Eros Coaching, and you can find me on eroscoaching.com. In today's show, we are talking about self-pleasure, and even though this is no longer May, where May is masturbation month in the US, today we'll still be talking about self-pleasure, and we are going much deeper with this topic. The title for today's show is Self-Pleasure, Your Way to Self-Love. How catchy is that? And we have with us Elise Savaresse, and she'll be discussing with us how women can use self-pleasure as a spiritual practice to come back home to ourselves. Elise believes that having a self-pleasure practice is the fastest way to self-love. She is passionate about supporting women to stop looking outside of themselves for their sense of self-worth, safety, and love. And on today's show, she'll be revealing what is truly possible for women when they connect with themselves with full of presence and love. So who is Elise? She's the creator of the Self-Pleasure Revolution and the 21-Day Self-Pleasure Challenge. She's a conscious sexuality and intimacy coach, and especially passionate with helping women who are insecure within themselves and with their sexuality by empowering them through self-awareness, self-love, and self-pleasure. So I'll tell you more about her work later on. You can check out her work by going to www.theselfpleasurerevolution.com. So welcome, Elise.
Hi, Martha. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I was very drawn to finding out more about your work because I also have a masturbation month campaign every year in the month of May. And I was drawn to you because you're beautiful. I was drawn to the way you look and the very beautiful message that you are talking about self-pleasure.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you came to create this self-pleasure revolution?
So there isn't really a romantic story about that. I've been exploring tantra and conscious sexuality for a few years, and my original idea happened as I was driving my car. So, but I was really exploring the idea of how we can create change, and I was exploring how we can change pathways in our brain. And I found out that it takes 21 days to create a new pathway. So I was really wondering what is possible if we save pleasure for a period of time for these 21 days straight. Would it be possible to let go of, deep conditioning, deep feeling of shame and guilt and fear? So that's how it really all started. And I started exploring more and more myself, and then one day as I was on holiday in Bali, I had this really amazing experience that really changed everything for me, and that really got me committed to this work. I really got in touch with how alive and powerful my yoni really was. Until then, I was really in my head connecting with this part of my body, but in that experience that I share in the 21-day challenge, I really got to hear my yoni, which is my vagina, and to hear her move and how alive she was. So, yeah, that's basically how it all started.
Really good. I like how you shared it came to you when you were driving. You know, when we are driving, we use a certain part of our brain and it leaves the other part to to dream, and it's great actually how it came about. So you mentioned that you have been working on yourself and exploring Tantra and conscious sexuality for a few years. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit with how self-pleasure is linked with the idea of our sexuality, spirituality.
For me, they're one of the same. Even before starting the self-pleasure evolution, I was with my partner over a few years. I would experience inner lovemaking, heightened state of awareness. Like reaching those moments where time stops, space disappear, you're really in the moment. And so in self-pleasure and in lovemaking, for me, it's a space where it's like a meditation. I can really clear my mind and I'm really in the moment, in the sensation in my body. And a lot of the time I feel really connected to everything, like to the universe. I have this sense of being at one with everything, and a lot of the time I actually get insights during those time, or I have clarity on a situation that's been disturbing me. So I really feel connected to my intuition, and I actually use this during the challenge, because each challenge is really each 21-day self-pleasure challenge is tailored to the group who is doing it. So what I do, I will self-pleasure myself in the morning and really get connected, so I get a sense of what the group require, and then I will tailor the message or the practice of the day. And it's funny because a lot of the times the ladies, they say that, it's exactly what I needed today, which I think it is, because this woman, we are very intuitive, and for me, self-pleasure is a way to get connected to the higher consciousness and to get those messages. And I really believe that self-pleasure activates our divine feminine essence, as I say, our intuition, our flow, and our creativity. So for me, self-pleasure is definitely a spiritual practice.
So just to be clear to listeners who are not sure what self-pleasure means, how can one self-pleasure?
How can one self-pleasure? Well, there are a lot of different ways to self-pleasure, and I guess I'd like to differentiate what I think a lot of people do is like different. It's not even the word masturbation of self-pleasuring, but the way that I self-pleasure is very different from what I used to do. So before I would connect with myself with the idea of climaxing and being very goal-orientated, I would do a lot of friction and a lot of activity to get to where I wanted to go, which was the climax. But what was happening at that time was that I would often feel empty at the end of masturbating while once I had climax, and even I would do it like 2-3 times in a row and still not feel fulfilled. And so the way that I teach self-pleasuring is really about creating a connection with yourself. So it's about dropping the idea of reaching any climax or any goal, and really about being present. So one of the things that I teach in the challenge is to just rest one hand on your heart and one hand on your yoni, just at the entrance. Do you know what yoni means, or should I explain what it is?
I do understand, but it's good to explain to our listeners, just in case.
Yes, so when I use the word yoni, I refer to your genitals. It's a Sanskrit word that means sacred temple, and I love using this because that's how I feel about this part of my body. And yoni really relates to everything, your labia, your clitoris, everything inside, versus the word vagina only relates to the inside section. So So coming back to what I was saying, I really invite people to slow down and to connect with themselves without a goal and to really breathe. So I invite them to just rest their finger at the entrance of their vagina and kind of create that connection before going anywhere, and to breathe and become present with sensation and emotion in their body. So there is a lot of different ways to self-pleasure, but that's always where I start, because I believe and I know from my own experience that my yoni is very alive and has his own wisdom, and that I can actually follow the dance that she can take me on. And that requires developing a relationship, as I was saying, and because a lot of the time, women, we have put things inside of our vagina, tampons or things like that, pennies. A lot of the time we have let things inside of us that we weren't ready for. So it's all about developing a respectful relationship where this part of our body feels that it's got time, that it's not pushed, that it's loved, so that she can awaken and show you how to dance.
Beautiful. So I appreciate what you're already beginning to share with us about some tips about how we can self-pleasure in different ways, including putting our hand on one hand on the heart and one hand on the yoni, and also how we can put our finger at the entrance of our vagina and then just begin breathing. So more about self-pleasure after this break.
Okay.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Being a radio host on OMFM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com. The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. I am Martha, and I have with me Elise, who is the creator of the Self-Pleasure Revolution and the 21-Day Self-Pleasure Challenge. In her 21-Day Self-Pleasure Challenge, she supports women to let go of guilt and shame around their own body and sexuality by helping them to reclaim their sexual innocence and by learning to love themselves unconditionally. She also loves to support couples who have lost connection in their relationship to learn what real intimacy means and how to use sexuality to get open, learn more about each other, and reach higher states of consciousness and ecstasy together. Elise also provides deep and intimate private sessions for women where she supports them to explore their sexual blueprint and rewrite their story. You can find out more about her by going to her website, theselfpleasurerevolution.com. Welcome back, Elise.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you. And just before the break, you were explaining to us about how you came to create the revolution and how our self-pleasure is a big part of connecting with our sexuality and with our spirituality. So I feel that a lot of women, they don't really have a regular self-pleasure practice. Why do you think it is important for women who don't do this regularly to begin to start to take this more consciously?
So for me, I've met a lot of women who are disconnected from this part of their body for different reasons. It could be from trauma or from conditioning from childhood. I know a lot of women have been told as little girls that they shouldn't be touching themselves, that it was wrong or dirty. And what happens is that we are carrying that as a memory in our body. And often we carry that in our lovemaking with our partners as well. So the reason why I think it's important to start developing a regular self-pleasure practice is to actually become aware of all those conditionings. Because what happens when you especially when you do the practice I was saying before, which isn't goal-orientated and really is all about being present and loving to yourself, those thoughts about I'm dirty or I shouldn't be doing that, all that's going to come up to the surface. So you're able to actually become aware of your beliefs and conditioning and change them if that's what you want. And what happens as well when you have a regular self-pleasure practice is you're really taking the time for you, and you're really taking the time to be present and loving for yourself, and that creates an environment that reflects everywhere in your life. I know personally, after doing this practice for over a year, I had to radically change things in my life because they weren't reflecting where I was anymore. And the reason was I developed so much self-love and self-respect for myself that the world outside that wasn't respecting that, I didn't want to put up with it anymore. So it really increases your sense of self. It really brings you back to your center within, and you develop that sense of self-knowledge and self-awareness of your own body, your own emotions, and if you can create a space where to be present with all that, with your different emotions, and then you drop a lot of the judgments that you may have for yourself. So that's some of the reason why I recommend regular practice. And the other part of this is sexually, is you become more and more aware of your pleasure potential. So in the practice that I develop in the 21-day self-pleasure challenge is really gentle, and is really based on developing the subtle sensations in your body and becoming aware of that. So to drop the attachment to gross sensation and a lot of stimulation, to really become more aware of the energetic that's happening in your body between your finger and your vagina, and to really breathe into the sensation and let the pleasure energy move through your body. So it's really about developing your capacity for pleasure and bring that in your relationship with your partner as well.
I love what you're sharing. So two things that you just mentioned about being present and loving, and this spills over to other areas of your life. And then the second one being we become sexually more aware, and therefore we begin to reach our sexual potential, including our capacity for pleasure. So I guess in some ways you already answered my next question, which is the title of today's show, that self-pleasure is the way that we can go into self-love. And you said that self-pleasure is the fastest way to self-love. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this point?
So I just want to make sure again that we're talking about a conscious way of self-pleasuring, not an unconscious way that's goal-orientated. So for me, it's the fastest way to self-love, because when you're being present and loving to yourself in self-pleasure, we're in a very vulnerable place. We are very open. There is no other place where we are so open physically and emotionally. And what happens, as I was just saying before, is when you connect with yourself, you have this opportunity to have all to become really present with your emotions. So for example, for me, when I breathe all the way to my yoni, everything that's between my mouth and my yoni, which is, we hold a lot of emotions in our stomach, in our heart, in our solar plexus. So it gives me the opportunity to really check in and feel how I'm feeling in the moment. And that gives me an opportunity to hold a loving space for myself. So a lot of the time when I have self-pleasure and I have felt sad or I felt angry, and I allow myself to express those emotions and to really hold myself in a place of love, what happened at the end, I just feel like I come home, because I'm really holding that space for myself that, I've been craving for someone else to do in the past, and it's really that sense of that whatever happens, I'm here for me. And so that's, I think, one of the reason I say that self-pleasure is the fastest way to self-love, because really there is nowhere to go in a conscious self-pleasure practice. You're really face to face with yourself, and it's your biggest opportunity to learn to love what you're finding.
I love what you're sharing. There's so much richness and depth. I think is one thing to talk about it, is another thing for people to really soak in what you're saying and understand that when we are less focused on the goal of orgasm and climax, like you mentioned, we actually take the time to feel the subtle sensations. And that's exactly what you're saying, that I hope listeners can begin to understand. It's about going deeper within yourself. And when we explore all that, we just naturally come to love ourselves more.
Yeah, and there is something, it might take you a while to start feeling the subtle sensation. And I think that's why a lot of people go for using sex toys and, like very fast way of self-pleasuring, because it takes a bit more time to become aware of the subtle sensation. And I think as well, a lot of people do it unconsciously because of all the emotions that it brings up as they are self-pleasuring. So it becomes an uncomfortable place that they want to kind of reach a climax. So that's all that goes.
Yeah. So we become so goal-oriented, we then start using sex toys.
Mm-hmm.
So would you recommend that women do that, or they should avoid it?
I don't have a yes or no answer to that. I think everyone do what's right for them. In the self-pleasure challenge, I recommend women not to for the 3 weeks, because I want to give them an opportunity to experience something else and to experience a subtle sensation, as I was talking before. But I think, like vibrators, what they create is really intense sensation in your body that like gets you straight away to the climax. And what I like is this idea of developing a relationship and taking the time and really kind of dancing with yourself. And I think with the sex toys as well, you don't have that biofeedback from your finger of what's going on inside. So, you can have fun sometimes, but it's important not to get stuck in one way of self-pleasuring. So, and to explore with your own finger inside and the different areas in your body, how different it feels when you're aroused and when you're not. There is a lot to discover with our fingers, and if we only use sex toys, we are really limiting ourselves. So I don't really usually recommend them. And to tell you the truth, I haven't used a vibrator for years, and I think I'd be quite scared to use one now.
Great. Thank you very much. So we'll explore more about sex toys after this break.
Okay.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, sea-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. This is Dr. Martha Tara Lee of Eros Coaching, and you can find me on eroscoaching.com. You are listening to Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio Network, and you can share this show with your friends right now by sending them the link omtimes.com/mobile. This allows our listeners to be able to listen to the show without needing any kind of app. They just need a link and then they can listen to the show immediately. I believe your friends will love the convenience of being able to do that. Coming back to the show, we have Self-Pleasure, Your Way to Self-Love with Elise Savaresse. And basically, just before the break, we were talking about how self-pleasure as a regular practice is important. And also, we talked a little bit about sex toys and how conscious self-pleasure is the one that allows us to get deep with our relationship with ourselves so that it goes into more self-love. So I'm curious, Elise, because we were talking about sex toys just now before the break. What do you think about, say, the harmful effects of sex toys? You talked about how it can feel intense and it's different from the 21-day practice that you're teaching, but are there any harmful effects to using sex toys?
Well, over time, what can happen is that you can really desensitize your vagina and your clitoris, so that you need more and more gross sensation. So it's always that sense of, oh, not enough, more and more. I need faster, stronger, bigger toy. And that's why I really, in all my work, it's all about becoming aware of the subtle sensation, because I believe you experience more and you're more able to orgasm, the more you're able to feel those subtle sensations. But the thing I think that hurts the most is unconsciousness, because as long as you're conscious about what you're doing, you can use toys as a tool. But when you're unconscious, a lot of the time you're not wanting to feel something, and you're really overriding the message that your body is sending you. And we can easily re-traumatize ourselves when we're unconscious. So I think unconsciousness is more hurtful than anything else.
Yeah, that's I love what you're saying. That's something new to me, because I think a lot of women, maybe because of time and pressure, they are just busy, tired, overwhelmed. They come back and then they just want to maybe have an orgasm, then they can just sleep.
Yeah.
They don't realize that it actually causes the opposite effect of what they want. They may think they want to feel, but actually they're not feeling deeply, and so they may have that feeling of emptiness that you mentioned just now. Yeah,
I used to experience that, as I was saying at the start of the interview. It wasn't really fulfilling, and I think what we're all longing for is to feel connected, and feeling connected with yourself is life-changing.
Yeah. So what you're talking about really reminds me of like what we do, the Chinese. We have like the 10-course dinner versus, you eat McDonald's or some fast food, and then it's it fills you up, but you actually don't feel that great afterwards.
Yeah, you feel empty quite quickly. You're hungry again quite quickly. Yeah.
And so we talked about the importance of having a regular self-pleasure practice. What about for people who are partnered? Because, I hear this sometimes from women who say, oh, I don't need to do self-pleasure. I have a partner, and even if I wanted to, I wouldn't want to, because that's like betraying him. I would feel guilty about it. What would you have to say about that?
I used to feel guilty about it. So I totally relate, is that I used to feel like it would mean that my partner wasn't enough. And I didn't want him to feel that. But then my partner at the time. I used to feel that with the previous partner, but my partner at the time with who I was exploring Tantra with didn't have a problem with it, so I really got to explore. But so what happens is when you start self-pleasuring and start becoming more aware of your body and what's going on in your body, you can actually bring that into your relationship. So even though you may say, oh, I have a partner and he can pleasure me, there is no one else that can know your body more than you. And actually, the more you awaken those subtle sensations, the more you're gonna feel with your partner. So even if your partner at the start feels a little bit left out, it's over time, I'm sure they're gonna feel blessed that you're looking after yourself. And at the end of the day as well, is something that you're doing for you, like the connection that I'm talking about with yourself and that sense of self-love is something that your partner can't give you. So I really recommend to develop that for yourself, because otherwise we constantly need the approval and love and respect from someone outside of ourselves, someone who's going to tell us we're okay. But when we can develop the environment within ourselves, it changes everything. And what you were talking about, when we were talking about feeling guilty, what I tell the lady in the 21-day challenge is to have a conversation with their partner and to express that, I have this guilt feeling.
Hello?
Really open communication, because that's all they need. They just, if you share with them that what you're trying to develop is, a real relationship with yourself, or you love yourself. I don't know any man that's going to say no to that, because from my experience, I've met many men who have been in relationship with women who don't love themselves, and they don't understand, and they feel like they're pouring all their love into those women, but there's still something in them that's not healed. And the reason is that because we need to do that for ourselves. So having a clear communication really helps. Yeah.
That's beautiful what you just shared, and reminds us. It brings me to the question that maybe some listeners are probably thinking, and I just want to throw in my opinion. Some women may be thinking things like, I couldn't do 21 days. I couldn't give myself the time. I couldn't do the subtle sensations. It's just too much effort. It's not me. I don't care. I have an orgasm. Why should it matter? I think that's the difference between somebody who's just living and functional versus somebody who's just lit up from within, and that's what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. So at the end of the day, we create change in your life when we reach a point that we have enough. If we're going along in life and we don't see that there is anything wrong with what we're doing, not that there is a wrong way to live, we don't tend to create change. And I know that a lot of women come to me because their libido is down, or their vagina is drying up, or they have a feeling of emptiness within. You need to get in touch with the reason why you would like to commit to 21 days. And that's something that we do at the start of the challenge, is to really get in touch with the longing of your heart and the longing of your body. because once you get in touch with what you truly desire, that's really helping you to take action and move forward. So if you're happy doing what you're doing, if you don't feel, the need to do the 21 day, I'm not pushing anyone to do it. I'm sharing what's possible through the practice, and then it really needs to be something women desire, and then I'm there to support them.
Beautiful. The big thing that I'm getting from what you're saying is change. For those people who want change, you need to do something different, and this is a practice that will be able to help support you to have lots of changes and feed the longing of your heart and your body.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't really take much. I recommend in the 21 day, the practice, we do a practice for 15-20 minutes every day, and you can do it in the morning while you're still in bed, and it's an experience. You don't know until you try. And a lot of women actually on the first day, when I was saying they connect with their longing, they cry because they realize of how much they've been missing out and how they've been treating themselves. And so, just if for all the women who are listening, I would just invite you to feel into your heart and into your body for a minute and see if it resonates with you, anything that I've been sharing so far.
Beautiful. I want to find out more about your 21-day challenge, how you exactly do it. Before the show, we were talking about how the ebook is free, and the fee is for joining the 21-day challenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about it after this break, and we'll find out more about the self-pleasure revolution.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. We are with Elise Savaresse, and I just want to let listeners know or remind all of you that she doesn't just work with women, she does work with couples who would be interested to reconnect with their connection, in their relationship, to learn what real intimacy means and to reach higher states of consciousness and ecstasy together. So if you're interested to work with Elise Savaresse, what you can do is you can actually email her privately to find out more about private sessions or coaching, and you can contact her directly at info@theselfpleasurerevolution.com. If you're interested to find out more about the 21-day self-pleasure challenge, you can actually go to her website as well, and you will be able to get a free audio. In this audio, it will help the women to connect with the longing of your heart and your yoni. So do subscribe if you liked all the things that we've been talking about. So Elise, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Martha.
Tell us more about your 21-day program, the details, so people know exactly what to expect if they sign up.
So I actually have one starting tomorrow, and people can sign up today for it. And the way it's set up is that you receive a message daily, an email daily with guidance, tools, audio, videos. On the first day as well, you're part of a Facebook group where everyone is sharing. I invite everyone daily to, reflect on certain things or share how they're feeling about their practice. So there is this really alive Facebook group and real support from women. What we do in the challenge, is basically there is kind of like a 3 weeks program. Where the first week is really about developing the connection with our body and looking at our conditioning and belief. So I share some ways to release negative judgment and conditioning that we may have. We looked at resistance, and we really start to create that loving connection with ourselves. And in the second week, we do a bit more exploration, and I talk about the anatomy and the pillars of pleasures, and we go a bit deeper and really start exploring inside our yonis. And on the last week, it's more about integrating and really learning how we can bring more pleasure into our life and how that can really impact everything, and how to connect with our intuition and things like that. And so what you get in the challenge as well, you get some demo video where I explain the practice. And what else? Yeah, and we have a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
As well, because that's a big thing for me. I think we can get really caught up in the seriousness of life, and we can keep it light and fun. And so we dance and we do a lot of different things. And for this challenge specifically, I actually have 4 experts who are joining me. I had 2 in the last one. I love bringing women together, and I love creating this sisterhood and where each person has a gift to share. So for this challenge, I have a friend of mine from Perth, Australia, who is a Kundalini yoga teacher, and she does as well nude yoga. So she will be sharing with us a practice of Kundalini yoga that really awakens your body. It's like something you can do in the morning, and it really gets the energy moving through your body. It's amazing. Then I have an interview with Eyal from Intimate Power, who is an amazing sexual healer, and he's done a lot of work with women, and we explore we explore the feminine body from a man's point of view, who's been working with a lot of women, and he shares a lot of his insights, and it's really, really interesting. And I also have this time around a lady from America who is doing sensual body movement. So we're gonna, because it's self-pleasure it's about you touching your genitals, but it's also about, really enjoying and loving your entire body. So with this sensual body movement, we're gonna connect with that and allow for our body to move freely and to find pleasure within movement. And lastly, I have a beautiful woman called Bonnie, who's done a lot of work with Tantra, and she specializes in yoni mapping, which she calls 3 hours tour to your vagina. And she's going to be sharing with us a yoni incantation. So within the traditional Tantra practice, they really revere the yoni. So she's going to share with us how the yoni is seen in Tantra, in traditional Tantra, and how to really honor it. So every challenge is a little bit different, and I like to really bring input from women and experts from around the world who have a beautiful piece to share.
Great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we have about 7 minutes left. And is there any guidance that you could give our listeners who perhaps they want to do some self-practice, self-pleasure practice by themselves for now?
So as I was sharing before, I invite you to just put your hand on your heart and one hand over your yoni and resting your middle finger right at the entrance. I call it the flower. Don't go inside, but just rest your finger at the entrance. And breathe. And it's always good to take a moment to check into how you're feeling. I always do that. So, bringing your attention between the point of contact of your finger and the opening of your yoni, really breathing from that place and feeling if there is anything that's moving for you in your body. And I would invite anyone who's listening today to take a moment to breathe into their heart and to really feel and ask what it is that my heart wants. And same again, while you're connecting with your yoni, to ask her what it is that she wants, what it is that she wants from you, and to really listen. And she will be guiding you into what she needs. Yeah, that's what I would recommend the woman. And I think it's really, for me, I'm really passionate about women connecting with themselves and really reclaiming their sexuality, because that's the only way that we can change the way sexuality is seen in the world at the moment. And it's the only way that we're going to give a different message to the next generation. Because right now, most of us have been educated through pornography, and even the movies that you see at the moment on the screen, like it's when people come together, it's always this kind of look into my eyes and this passionate kiss, and the next minute they're on the bed like going crazy. It's not really shown like the depth of what's possible through sexuality with a partner or with oneself. And I really think that the only way we can create change is that to create it within ourselves first, because we can say things, but if we are not congruent with what's going on with our body, people sense it. And especially children, they are really energetic beings, and they know how we're feeling about things. They can pick up our energetic messages. So to come to a place where we're really comfortable and at ease with our relationship will be more powerful than any words or any sex education we can try to give to our children. So that's why I'm, passionate.
Beautiful. I like the imagery that you gave about the movies and how they are suddenly passionately kissing and
and the next thing they're on the bed and then it's done. It's a lot more than that.
I call it animal sex.
Yeah, and that's what I thought it was like growing up. No one told me there was anything different, so we need to give a different message, and even if we are uncomfortable, we really need to look at this issue, because most of us are blind, like we are not educated as we come into our sexuality as teenager, and a lot of us get traumatized because we don't know how to respect ourselves, and we're looking for love outside, and we've got this message in the movie that's how we, okay, we just open our legs and the person come, and so there is something that needs to be done here, and I believe it starts with oneself.
Thank you so much for coming onto the show. Is there anything else that you would like to add, just that I haven't asked?
Anything else that I'd like to I believe any woman can do this. So if any woman is wondering if that's for them or any woman can do this, and the practice is very gentle, as you probably already noticed, and it's so beautiful, and this feeling of coming home, I really want it for everyone. So if anything that I said resonated with you, please come and join me for this challenge or the next one.
Thank you very much, Elise. Thanks for being on the show. And next week we have Robbie Van Gaal, and she will be talking about how we can balance the divine masculine and divine feminine. So join us on Eros Evolution next week.
Thanks.